All right. We are here with – you like that, Reed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to Locked On So Rare. Hey, Miller Thomas, we've been kissing the Diamondbacks' butt for 2 straight weeks now.
Deservingly so.
Deservingly so. But hey, let's talk a little bit about the rest of the major leagues.
Yeah.
What do we say is you want to talk a little bit about overreactions as we are just about 10 games into the season. We're about 1/16 of the way through the Major League Baseball season so far. I can tell you something from my end. The Tampa Bay Rays are doing everything you count on. Now, Sarah Langs is one of the great follows in all of Major League Baseball. Yeah, I mean, she previously was on ESPN. She's now for MLB. She's just the great site and great feed on Twitter if you want to get some great baseball stats. I'm going to quote one of her tweets right now. The Rays have a 57 run differential through 9 games. That's almost impossible. Now, for the team's first 9 games to have a 57 run differential, that's never been done since 1900. Okay? Hell, it's never been done since 1890. It hasn't been done since 1885. Okay? We're going way back. We're going back to Chester Arthur as president. The St. Louis Maroons, we've been mentioning them. They had a plus 78 run differential in 1884. The New York Gothams had a plus 63. And the Rays are a little bit ahead of the 1882 Providence Grays with 54. And the 1876 Hartfords of Brooklyn. Now, that's a confusing team. Are they in Hartford or are they in Brooklyn?
No idea.
And that's 1876, which, mind you, was 11 years after the end of the Civil War.
Yeah, you were 8.
Yeah. I mean, if you made a Lincoln getting shot joke then, you could say too soon. Too soon. 1876. And those games were blacked out. And by the way, please follow Locked On Hartfords of Brooklyn. That's our new show we have. And only the best information for your Hartfords of Brooklyn. But that's how good the Rays have been playing. And yeah, I know they've been playing some tomato cans, but they're winning the games they're supposed to win. And if the Rays want to knock off the Yankees and want to knock off the Blue Jays and force themselves to have a seat at the table, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's never the wrong time to win 9 games in a row. It's never the time. I wish they did do it. It's always the right time to win 9 in a row. And they're on Monday, they're at home against the Red Sox with Nick Pivetta on the mound. And Pivetta's actually pitched all right. But here we go. This is a big test for the Red Sox, who have a winning record after stomping Detroit. But we're going to see. This is their first big challenge. Can they prevent the Rays from going 10-0 out of the gate? What do you think?
Yeah, and the Red Sox have been one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball. And maybe that's the way they have to take down this Tampa Bay Rays team, who is the best offense in Major League Baseball, who I think is averaging like 8 or 9 runs a game. Because the crazy thing about Tampa Bay, just go to Baseball Reference and pull up all their stats, because basically as a team, their position players have a 936 OPS with a 280 average. And then their pitching staff is pitching to a 2.13 ERA. Like, on both sides of the ball, you have like 10 dudes playing at an all-star level in your lineup. And then on the pitching staff, everyone's basically pitching like prime Clayton Kershaw. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, how can you take down Tampa Bay? Because I wrote a list of overreactions, and one of mine was, is the American League playoffs going to run through Tampa Bay? Should they be considered the favorites in the AL? Of course, it's a week 1 overreaction, but considering they are 9-0 to start the season, you just brought up stats about how no one has started a season like this since pre-1900. Like, I have a goal of being maybe the last person from the 1900s alive. I was born in 97. I feel like it's a realistic goal, but
you're beating me. There's no doubt you're beating me. You were at my funeral. There's no getting around it.
We'll see about that, Sully. You never know. But There's no one alive from the 1800s. There was no one alive for any of those Gothams or the Hartfords or the Brooklyns. And what Tampa Bay is doing is something that literally no one alive has seen before, which is something, whenever you can say that, I feel like you got to write it down.
Like Drew Rasmussen threw 7 shutout innings on Sunday. He's won his 2 starts. He has not let up an earned run in the 13 innings he's pitched. Jeffrey Springs has not let up an earned run in the 13 innings he's pitched. So 2 of their starting pitchers have ERAs of 0. And Jeffrey Springs, he's thrown 13 innings. He's struck out 19 batters in those 13 innings.
Yeah.
He's walked 4 and has allowed 3 hits. 3. I mean, I don't care if you're pitching against pigs. That's phenomenal. So, and they're facing major league batters. And look we're going to have to see right now the collective ERA for the entire Tampa Bay Rays team is 2.13.
Yep.
2.13 is the team ERA over the first 9 games. And the team OPS is 936. You're going to win a bunch of games that way.
Yeah.
So, and remember, this may not be an overreaction because you and I talked about this. This is a team that went to the World Series in the truncated COVID season. And then in 2021, they were the lone 100-win team in the American League. They lost those 2 walk-off games to the Red Sox. If that ball didn't ricochet off of Hunter Renfroe, chances are the Rays win game 3 and probably win that series. So they were an elite team. Last year, they were completely banged up. None of their starters and stars were in the lineup by the time they made it to the wild card series against Cleveland. And they still made the postseason. So now they're healthy for the most part. They're still, I don't know. I don't think this is a fluke.
Yeah.
They're not going to win. I don't think they'll win 115 games, but I think this is definitely a playoff team. And I picked them to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think I have them borderline playoff team, but I think I did pick them. The thing is, with the Tampa Bay Rays, I'm never going to be surprised what they do in the regular season. I do think they could be one of the best teams in the regular season. I do think they could finish with the best American League record because they're one of those teams that from an analytical standpoint, they know how to manufacture wins. They know how to breed pitchers in their minor league and just have, you've said it before, they're like the Terminators when it comes to pitching because they could just keep producing guys year after year. So I have no quibbles about maybe thinking the Tampa Bay Rays could be one of the best teams in the American League in the regular season. My gripe with Tampa Bay and my slander for Tampa Bay always comes for the postseason. I think they're always too rigid when it comes to those analytics, and they don't allow, they don't have enough feel when it comes to their game. So I want to see how it plays out over the course of regular season. We'll see if they could convince me. I doubt it because for me, I think it'll probably always come down to the postseason for Tampa Bay. They could probably go 162-0, and I'll still probably pick someone else to beat them in the postseason. But considering the start that they're having, how historic it is, if I'm Locked On Rays host, I think I'm pretty happy. I think I'm more happy than probably running the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast if I'm running Locked On Rays.
Well, there you go. Well, I'll tell you something that we should be very, very happy about. I think we should be very, very happy about the fact that if we want to make any sort of wager for our teams, we can go to America's #1 sportsbook. That's right. It's FanDuel. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the Major League Baseball action than FanDuel, because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Miller Thomas, what are other things that we could be overreacting about as we're here on the 10th day of April, 2023?
I got some team-specific ones, but here's a general baseball one for you. The new rules are the best thing for baseball since steroids. now.
I think they've been. Look at one of the things I think has been interesting. I'll tell you a metric that I was able to observe, but I'll tell you after I say this. We're seeing that the number of walks we see per at bat, the number of hits per at bat, have not been much different than the last year. So, in other words, the action on the field is pretty much the same. It's just happening at a faster pace. And the thing that I think is great is the fact that we're seeing more speed.
Yep.
I've always loved speed in baseball. That helps pick up the pace and pace of play. Is if a runner's on first base, you're excited to see what will happen. You see more people going first to third on hits. I think it's great. But I'll tell you another thing. I went to a game at Dodger Stadium the other day when they were playing the Rocks. And I don't live far from Dodger Stadium, but it is a difficult drive, no matter what, to drive up and down the 110 from my home in Pasadena to the stadium. It's always a traffic jam, and the getting out of the parking lot of Dodger Stadium is playing a game of Tetris. Now, the game started around a little after 7. I stayed for the whole game because that's how I roll. And I was back home like 10:10. So from the point where they threw the first pitch to me pulling up to my driveway was just a little more than 3 hours. And
with the LA traffic?
With the LA traffic.
Wow.
And those days, oh God, it's 11:15 and I'm still driving home. You know, there was a game between Toronto and the Angels on Sunday, which I think may still be going on. I think the final score was 12-11 or 13-12. It was ridiculous. And it was a long game because it was extra innings, final score 13-12. But it wasn't like a 4.5-hour game. It wasn't one of those games where you felt like you were watching Lord of the Rings, where you're like, okay, there's a lot of good stuff happening here. We can pick up the pace a little bit.
Long
we don't have to listen to 5 more Hobbit songs. Just eat your biscuits and keep walking, you know? And this was a game that included lots of pitching changes, you know, lots of checking gloves and all this other stuff. So we're seeing the pace of play, not just the length of game, but we're seeing that it's not affecting the action, which I think a lot of people are worried about. Oh, it's going to be an increase of that, increase in this. I think by the time we get to the postseason, we will be used to a lot of the new rules. And I still hate ghost runner on second. I really do. I still don't like the universal DH, but I've been able to, as I said before, I've been able to rationalize that by saying I would rather have the universal DH and labor piece than the 2 rules and a strike. So I'm like, okay, fine. Then just I'll live with it. I'll live with it. I do miss National League Baseball, but I also think we've got to realign the divisions into 4 regional divisions. I think that's the next great thing. But so far, I don't see a problem with any of the new rules. I think they've been working so far.
Yeah, because the new rules are doing exactly what you just said. We're increasing the pace of play without losing action, because I got some numbers here to drive home the point. Sully Baseball, because right now games are about 2 hours and 37 minutes long. The last time games were under 2 hours and 40 minutes was 1985 Sully Baseball. So it's been a very long time since we've seen games happen this quickly. And right now we're seeing 9.32 runs scored per game. Since 2008, only twice have we seen teams in a game score at least 9.3 runs a game. So we're actually getting as much offense as we've ever seen before in the last 15 years, while also getting quicker, more efficient games. We're still getting the 3rd most pitches per plate appearance that's ever been tracked this season. So the pitches are as most as ever. We're still getting as many runs as we've ever seen in a game, and yet the time of the game is still being taken down drastically. This is what I wanted from baseball. You still get your pitches, you still get your offense, but you don't have to be in a stadium for 6 hours and spend your whole day there. I absolutely love what the new rules are doing to the game.
And also think about you saying 85. That was a period that was like the golden age of stolen bases.
Mm-hmm.
You had Ricky Henderson stealing 100 some odd. You had Vince Coleman stealing 100 some odd. You had Tim Raines. You had Willie McGee. You had so many great. You look at the stolen base leaders for each year. It was a lot of fun, and that was and maybe you could make the Willie Wilson with the Royals. The Blue Jays had a ton of guys like Tony Fernandez who would be stealing bases. I mean, it was fun. It was fun watching guys steal bases because there was that sense of adventure when someone's at first. When Ricky Henderson took a walk or Vince Coleman somehow got on base, your eyes were on Vince Coleman. Your eyes were on Tim Raines. Your eyes were on Ricky Henderson. And of course that would mean who was batting behind them. So for the Cardinals, you would have a Willie McGee or a Jack Clark batting behind him. For the Yankees, when Ricky was on the Yankees, you would have Mattingly or Winfield batting behind him with a pitcher trying to throw a fastball. It just made it, you can't give a big fat pitch to Dave Winfield, but at the same time, you can't throw a big looping breaking ball and have Ricky take second. It makes the game more exciting. And the fact that you brought up 85, again, I'm showing my colors a little bit. I was 13 years old in 85, and that was the baseball that I grew up on. And so it's starting to resemble that.
Yeah.
I really miss the loss of the stolen base game.
Yeah, because we've been trying to curtail the three true outcomes, right? The walk, the strikeouts, and the home runs. And so far, I think we're doing that because you could just use Sunday's game with the D-backs against the Dodgers as a microcosm because they hit no home runs in that game and they still put up 16 hits with 11 runs scored and still had an offensive outburst. I think that's what we want to see more of. Action on the bases. The D-backs have been a great team at this, at just creating havoc. It feels like every time someone quick from the D-backs gets on the bases, you're going to get your 1 to 2 pickoff attempts. Then you're off. You're off to the bases and you just see these pitchers just get so distracted with these base runners because they're behind them dancing and they just know, listen, you can't throw to me anymore. So I'm taking off very next pitch and there's nothing you could do. Catchers are becoming more important nowadays because of it. Sully, let me give you another headline though. The Mets don't look like money well spent because you look up and down that roster. And right now they have a lot of injuries and a little bit of a slow start right now. Max Scherzer hasn't looked particularly great. Verlander's on the bench. Starling Marte left with injury. Guys like Marcana and Eduardo Esparza aren't exactly living up to expectations either. It's a lot of Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor in that lineup. And then Senga's been pretty good in that rotation. But a lot of them guys that are making big money on that Mets team right now, Sully Baseball, I don't know if Stephen Cohen's wallet is feeling too happy right now.
Way too early. I think way too early.
It's overreaction. It
is an overreaction. Teams can get off to bad starts and win it all. There's a book out right now about the 1998 Yankees that's making the rounds. 1998 Yankees got off to a bad start. The last few World Series champions got off to a bad start. You were factoring in the possibility of injuries when you look at a team like the Mets and you try to make predictions of how they're going to turn out. That will happen. And so I think everyone's got to take a deep breath and say, okay, it didn't get off to a sensational start. This is still a very good baseball team. And I think eventually, the team you will see this team play the level of baseball I think they're capable of doing. So I think I wouldn't be that worried for a Met fan. You would rather the team be healthy in September than in April.
Here's a positive one for you. The Pirates are the sneaky wild card team to watch out for because they started this season pretty good. Someone like Brian Reynolds looks like we know he's in a contract year. We know he hasn't gotten that extension yet. And right now he looks like he's playing with his hair on fire, ready to get the bag. I think he leads all of Major League Baseball in home runs right now. Guys like McCutcheon are having, bounce back season, I guess, a little bit at their age. And unfortunately, O'Neal Cruz, we know, just saw that fractured ankle because of that little altercation he had at home plate. But the Pirates, I wasn't against the Pirates entering the season. I didn't think they were a wild card team or anything like that. But I was like, listen, I'll take their over on FanDuel. If their over was 71, 72 and a half wins, I was like, I think the Pirates could get to 73 or 74 wins. So right now, overreaction, Pirates, sneaky wild card team to watch out for?
No, they're not a wild card team.
Dang.
But here's where I'll put a caveat. This is that division, the National League Central. We're going into this year. It was clear only one team was going for it, the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep.
The Brewers, if they go off to a bad start, they're going to sell everyone off. The Cubs aren't there yet. Reds, we know they're not there yet. And the Pirates have a lot of talent on that, but are not yet there yet. So how could a team win that division? They could win that division if the Cardinals have a bad start. Now, the Cardinals have a lot of talent, and they, Jordan Walker's been, the young kid on the team has been fantastic.
Yeah.
But they've not been flying out of the gate, and the Pirates are winning games they're supposed to win. Now, what you're hoping for is that they could build upon this. They can build upon this good start that they've had. And if they do that, then they could possibly be I don't think they have a chance of being a wild card contender, but maybe they could steal the division. If this is going to be one of those years where there's one crap division and winning 82 or 83 games is enough to win it, if that's going to happen in any division, it's going to be the National League Central. And it will happen because it's a one-team division, the Cardinals. And if the Cardinals flop, that will allow a team to sneak in. I remember the 2005 Padres won the division with 82 wins because the Giants and Dodgers and every other team, the Diamondbacks, everyone grossly underperformed that year. So the Padres, who were actually not very good, and at the end of the year, because they got swept by St. Louis in the playoffs, ended the year 82 and 83 essentially, but they finished the regular season 82 and 80. Won the division because there was no other team that was above 500. So if the Brewers stumble, the Cardinals fall under the weight of their own stardom, and the Reds and Cubs aren't ready, and the Pirates continue to play well, yeah, they could be that sneaky team. And I think that would be a great story for baseball. By the way, I just want to go back here. I'm over at baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. Yep. In 1985, Gary Pettis of the California Angels, that's what they were called back then. He's now a coach for the Astros. And Willie McGee, who was the National League most valuable player that year, each stole 56 bases, 56, which tied for fourth in baseball, which shows you how different the stolen base game was then. Yeah. Tim Raines stole 70 bases that year. Ricky Henderson stole 80. And Vince Coleman stole 110.
Jesus.
110 bases. But how many times did he get caught? Shut up. You're missing the point. You're missing the point is when 110 times Vince Coleman got on base with a bunt single or a walk, he essentially turned it into a double. And that's what made it fun when those players, you had Ryan Sandberg stole 54 bases. Juan Samuel stole 53 bases. Think about this. Lonnie Smith on the, who actually, no, he wasn't. He was on the Royals. Okay. I was going to say he was third on the Cardinals with 52. But, I mean, Davey Lopes was 40 years old. He stole 47 bases. Gary Redus, remember him? Former Reds and Pirates player. He stole 48 bases. Brett Butler, not the comedian, but the center fielder for the Cleveland Indians. That's what they were called back then. He stole 47 bases. It was just a lot of fun watching all those players just run like jackrabbits. And I am looking forward to seeing that again in baseball.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get any triple-digit guys this year, but guys like Corbin Carroll, I wouldn't be surprised if he touched 70. Guys like Jorge Mateo from the Baltimore Orioles, I wouldn't be surprised if he touched 70 because a lot of these guys so far, if you look at the league leaders, it's around 6 and 5 stolen bases within the guys, first 8-9 games of the season. So on pace right now, the league leaders in stolen bases, they're all right around 70 stolen bases for a year, which is probably something we haven't seen. I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but it's probably something we haven't seen in a few years, probably something we haven't seen since like Billy Hamilton first came in the league and he was just running wild with the Cincinnati Reds back in 2014 or whatever. Maybe Jacoby Ellsbury back when he was stealing like 70 bases with the Boston Red Sox, because it is something of an epidemic that we've seen the last few years, right? Something that we talked a lot on these podcasts about how we just need the stolen base back. And I think when we look up at the end of this season, when we look at the league leaders, we're going to be like, man, a lot of people stole 50 plus bases. And I think this is only the start of the renaissance for the speedster in Major League Baseball.
All right. The last thought of that guy, I'm going to bring up the 85 Cardinals, who should have won the World Series. They had a blown call against them in the ninth inning of Game 6. Tom Herr and Ozzie Smith each stole 31 bases for that team, tied for 4th on the team, 31. Lonnie Smith, friend of the podcast, guest on the old Sully Baseball show. Lonnie Smith stole 12 bases in 28 games. Okay, he played 28 games for the Cardinals that year and stole 12 bases.
That's a lot.
And Joaquin Andujar stole 3 bases. A pitcher stole 3 bases on the team. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the sabermetrics heads exploding, watching their ace pitcher steal those bases? 3 bases. And there you go.
No.
Well, look, but you stole our hearts, Miller Thomas.
Oh, thank you.
Tell people where they can listen to your great show.
Yeah, I don't even know what pitcher could steal 3 bases. I don't know who's our best pitcher athlete that we got today, because Mad Bum probably got that title retired. But you can follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. And please, please, please hit subscribe on the Locked On Diamondbacks YouTube channel.
And you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Overreacting is the way only we can. This has been the Locked On Diamondbacks, Locked On MLB crossover. I'm Sully. That's Miller Thomas. Let's fist pump for another week. Boom.